Okay, this is Trophy Dark Devil Aim for Me. I want to begin by having all of us on the call introduce ourselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you'd like for us to know about you. If you have a Twitter handle you want to share, or if you have some project that you want to let people know about, or you just want to talk about how long you've been gaming, it doesn't really matter. Or you can share nothing. It's up to you. But I'll start. My name is Jason. I am the founder of the Gauntlet gaming community, and I'm the publisher of the original Trophy games, of which this is a third-party product for that we're going to be doing today. Brian. Oh, and my pronouns are he, him.
I'm Brian Sego, and my pronoun is he. Been gaming for about 40 years with a gap in there, and I make art. It's one of my prints hanging on the wall over the shoulder. That's about it for me.
Awesome, thank you. And Mike.
Yeah, Mike, he, him. I suppose I got back into RPGs about 10 years ago, and been mainly hanging around the story games. Recently been playing, Blades in the Dark based stuff, and really love Burning Wheel, Oscar, Torchbearer. So just excited to try this system out.
Awesome. If you're accustomed to Burning Wheel and Mouse Guard, you will find this system to be extremely light as compared to those. So this will feel like a delicate leaf in the wind, especially compared to Burning Wheel. Burning Wheel is actually that's the indie game that brought me to indie games after having not been playing role-playing games for a long time. But I haven't played it in a long time, but that's where I came back on. And as we're continuing, if everybody will just exercise mic discipline, if you're not talking, just please stay on mute. So I want to begin by doing a procedure called CATS. That's an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. The reason why I do this is in order to establish some basic expectations for everybody at the table for how today is going to go. And so the concept, first, the concept of Trophy Dark. Trophy Dark is a rules-light story game about treasure hunters who are, in the default setting, are going into a dark, forbidden place, often a forest, but other places as well, a place that doesn't want them there. And they are very hubristic, and they are going into this place that is going to try to basically stop them and tear them down and break them apart. And the characters are almost certainly doomed. They rarely make it to the end. When they do make it to the end, they are usually changed in a really fundamental way. Trophy Dark embraces a gameplay ethos of play to lose, essentially meaning like what we're playing to do is to just have a good story and see how these characters spiral and turn and go dark and fall apart or whatever, right? Like that's where we find our fun, is in just seeing their descent, basically. So do your best to keep your character alive, but understand that the game is the goal of the game is truly to kind of see them be torn apart, right? So that is sort of a basic idea of Trophy Dark. This particular incursion is called Devil Aim for Me. It does not take place in the normal trophy fantasy setting. It's a separate setting. It's a Wild West, I would even go so far as to say Weird West setting. You play cowboy type characters, Wild West outlaw type characters. In this incursion, you are essentially tracking down an outlaw named Bantam, and that's the impetus for everything that happens in the story. So going back to CATS, the second part of CATS is called AIM. So our aim for today is we're going to make characters. That is a very fast process. Once that's done, we will introduce them. And then after we introduce the characters, we will start playing the incursion. The incursion is laid out in 5 parts that are called rings. And I don't anticipate having any trouble finishing that today. We should be able to get through all 5 of them today. The tone of this game, the tone of Trophy Dark in general is dark. I would even go so far as to say bleak. It's a grim game. I don't think this one is quite as grim based off my read of the incursion, but I think it still has a lot of darkness. It's got a lot of like religious symbology. It has a lot of like, it's got a dusty desperateness that you might find in like a Western film, right? Like it's got that kind of feel to it. In terms of subject matter, I think the only thing that's going to come up, I mean, it does have like a lot of like religious undertones. I mean, it's called Devil Aim for Me. There is suggestions of visiting brothels and things like that. But mostly everything is pretty much what you would expect to find in like an Old West, type movie, but with just a little bit of a supernatural twist to it. We're going to have 3 safety tools on the table for today. The first is the X card, the second is lines and veils, and the third is the open table policy. The X card is very straightforward. If something happens in the game that you don't like for any reason, really, but mostly something, if it's a reason that just kind of fundamentally bothers you or interferes with your fun, you can say X card or type it in the chat, and we will take a little break and kind of change whatever just happened in the fiction. I might ask you what is being X carded, but I won't ask you why is it being X carded. The second tool we're going to use is lines and veils. Lines are things that we absolutely don't want in the game. We just don't want to explore that at all. And then veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer to not role play it or see it on screen. I will offer my own personal lines and veils, and I will give you both a chance to say your lines and veils. If you prefer, you can also just message me on Discord or in the chat if you prefer not to say it on the recording, in which case I will make sure to convey the information to everyone. So for lines, for me, I absolutely do not want sexual violence. No sexual violence of any sort is going to happen in this game. And I don't love violence towards small children. Young people is fine, but like little kids, I don't really want to do that. And then for veils, I prefer to keep torture behind a veil. I'm okay with torture being a thing in the fiction. I just don't want to role play that. I will pause here for a little bit to give you both a chance to think of your lines and veils. And if you want to say them on the call, please do. Otherwise, just message me.
For me, those work great. So I would say the same.
Yeah, that's basically what I would add if you didn't have anything. So I'm good.
Okay, great. Sounds good. So the last safety tool is going to be the open door policy. This is a gauntlet-wide policy, which is you are free to just leave. You don't have to explain yourself. You can just disengage and stop playing. As a courtesy, you should tell us if you're leaving, but otherwise, you could just go if it's just not jiving with you for some reason. So. All right, and in that case, let's go to character creation. Character creation is a pretty straightforward process in Trophy, especially in Trophy Dark. It's a little more complex in Trophy Gold, but Trophy Dark is really easy. Go ahead and pop open that PDF and that character keeper. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording, and viewers of the video will pick up with you in a moment. Okay, we're back. Let's introduce characters, and then I'm going to go through just a couple of gameplay things that you need to know, and then we will start playing. So one thing, as you're introducing characters, you don't need to tell us much about your backstory unless you happen to know, but otherwise, one of the main things we're doing during the gameplay is revealing your character's backstory. So we're kind of like, we see a lot of your character in flashback in Trophy, so we'll be kind of doing that as we play, mostly through question prompts that I pose to you. But for now, we just want the basics: name, occupation, background, what skills you have, if you have becoming myth, that sort of thing. So let's start with, I'm going to go with, start with Guillermo first. So Brian, tell us about Guillermo.
All right. Well, Guillermo took a turn at trying to be a doctor, an apothecarist, was not the best at it. And at some point, when somebody gave him a snarky comment that he should be a veterinarian rather than a doctor of humans, he took that at least partial good advice and decided to go into wrangling cows. There are some rumors that his tear ducts are a little abnormal, that on occasion he gets weepy and it makes people do strange things.
Nice. I like it. Thank you. And yeah, I'm just looking to make sure I don't have any other questions. You have a becoming myth called Lead Touch, which says immobilize something or someone with a bullet. How do you suppose that actually looks in play? Like, are you literally shooting them, or are you like touching them with the bullet, or like what is that?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm picturing that as you know how people throw a bottle up in the air and shoot it. It's almost more of a freak of nature thing. Like I can throw a hat up and pin it to the wall rather than putting it on a regular hat post.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm very into that. Okay, cool. Good. And animal handling, navigation, brawling, and medicine. Those are all your skills. Okay, good. And what's your drive?
Just to acquire a piece of land where I can kind of have some peace of mind and raise animals on my own.
Nice. So
Good.
Okay, great. I like it. Okay, Mike, tell us about Dax Ackerman.
Sure. I think Dax, worked as a rail spike driver for a long time, and then he decided he would try homesteading to like get away from that, and failed utterly. And he just has this strange charisma about him. Like he can be real, mean, but people still, they just think he's the good guy, even though he doesn't do the good things. Like he'll draw first, but everyone's like, oh well, he had his rights, and so he's kind of a drifter now. He just relies on his charisma in every new town to get by.
And it says your drive is to find a town where no one knows you or what you've done and start over. I think you'll want to be thinking of that because I think we're going to probably explore that as we play. So, good. Okay. I feel pretty good about these characters. And in terms of how your characters know each other, I mean, they're going to be together just on this. They might be together just in order to catch this outlaw, and that might be the thing that brought them together. If there's some other reason, we can explore that as we go. But it's okay for it to be just a basic kind of, we're both going in the same direction and we're going to split the bounty, right? Kind of thing. So, but I'll leave that up to the two of you as we play to kind of develop that. And with that, I want to just talk about a couple of gameplay things. So, one, this Trophy Dark is a very linear game. You start in one place and you end in another place, and you can kind of zigzag and move around in this gameplay space, which is imagine like a corridor with like doors on all sides, and you're going from one end of the corridor to the other, but you can like go inside the doors if you want and check those rooms out, but ultimately you come back to the corridor and go to the end of the hall, right? Go to the end of the corridor. That's kind of what Trophy Dark is. Like, it's linear, but within that linearity, you have a lot of space to do things, to show your character, to interact with other characters, to do cool stuff, and importantly for Trophy Dark, to sort of show your descent. So that's one thing. Another thing to know about Trophy Dark is you're going to be acquiring conditions throughout the game. As your ruin goes up, you'll get a condition. And in Devil Aim for me, we just keep deepening that condition every time your ruin goes up. And that condition has no mechanical effect. It's strictly a role-playing prompt. So basically, as you acquire conditions, you just want to work that into your role play a little bit. And I will also, like, if I think your condition would make something implausible or unfeasible, I will also say, I don't think that's going to work because of your condition. So that's another thing. And then I guess the last thing to know about Trophy Dark is you are you are together and you are working towards this goal, but the game will always try to get you to turn on each other. And that turning on each other is mostly um, it's not super mechanized. Like there's not like you're going to be rolling dice against each other at different points. It's more like in the story, it would be cool if I did this, and then the other person can like kind of agree or not agree, and then we can kind of talk about it. It's an informal thing, but it's important to the flavor of the game. This is particularly the case when you hit Ruin 5 and have to make those reduction rolls to lower your Ruin. The only way you can do that is if you betray the other person in some way. So that's how that goes. And basically, it's just a storytelling game. It's not a tactical or simulationist type role playing game. It's not combat focused at all. In fact, if you're facing a monstrosity, you can't do combat. You automatically die. But it's more about just telling a tale, right? And that's what we're going to do. So we'll learn the basic die roll whenever we need it first, and we'll kind of go through that. If you're rolling physical dice, you will need 2 sets of d6s of 2 different colors so that you know which is which. They're called light dice and dark dice in the game. You can also use a die roller, and I have a die roller link that I'll put in the chat if you prefer to use that. I don't have a preference. You can roll real dice or you can use the die roller. And with that, let's do the first ring, and then we'll take a break. So the West is no more wild and untamed than any other part of the world, really. There's an order. But to those who are kind of trundling westward in covered wagons, on foot or on horseback, displacing natives in order to farm, homestead, or pan for gold, to those people, the West seems wild because they don't yet know the forces at play. Exploited men arrived first, searching for work. Women came next, exploiting different resources, and towns sprung up around their efforts. And then came the grifters, the disaffected, those who require a population large enough to disappear into, and a land where a bit of treasure can keep one beyond the grasp of gods and masters, for a while anyway. And here we have a song. I'm not going to sing it, and I'm not going to yodel. I will just read it to you like a lovely poem, which is, "Oh, the prairie's home to both beasts and men, and wherever I roam, it don't matter when. There is just one thing keeps me warm at night. It's my dreams of gold and of trophies bright. Now cowboy dreams underneath big skies on a prairie bed, they can rest their eyes. But when cowboys pass and their stories told, what's a man's true worth measured out in gold?" And so ring 1. So in recent weeks, belts have been tightened and meals skipped, with good paid work as rare as hen's teeth. You two are part of a motley crew of 2, short on cash and in town looking for opportunities. And the sheriff is currently hammering up a dead or alive poster outside of their office. And an etched likeness sort of sneers at you from the poster. And it says, the outlaw Henry Bantam is worth a small fortune, dead or alive. Henry Bantam, bank robber, noose dodger. They say Bantam was shot dead outside Elksville, and a lightning strike knocked him right back to his feet, alive again. They say Bantam's boots melted and the bullets ran out the holes in his chest like prairie dogs fleeing a flooded burrow. It's because Bantam went down to the crossroads, they say. He made a deal. He gave up something awful powerful in exchange for the fastest gun, for uncanny luck, for eyes in the back of his head. But they say a lot of things. So I think we start with the two of you staring at this poster. This is going to be the retrieving Bantam dead or alive. This is going to be the main thing you're focused on for this game. And there's a bunch of locals gathered around behind you as well. And you're all standing on these like wooden planks that have been laid out in front of the sheriff's office. The wooden planks are kind of cover the mud. Otherwise, the town is just fucking mud, right? If you've ever seen the Deadwood TV show, for example, on HBO, it's like just mud everywhere. It's like that, right? Like you're just constantly covered in it. But here we have some planks of wood that everyone's kind of like huddled up on, right? Around this pole, looking at this poster of Bantam. And I think one of the younger, well, I think a lot of the people are like, they know the two of you don't fit in, right? And I guess that might be a little different for, it's going to take me a minute to get names, sorry. It might be a little different for Dax because of Dax's white hat myth, which we'll talk about in a minute. But initially, at least, they know you're outsiders. And I guess I would ask you both, for your character, like what about you lets these people in this town, this nameless town, know that you're outsiders? Like how do they know you don't fit in? We'll start with Guillermo.
This town is just sort of a mythical anywhere town. I mean, the West, but we're not in a specific state. Yes.
It's not important. It's just a liminal Western space.
Could be closed. Could be an accent. Could be that he just. I look around at things with almost a condescension, like this town's not good enough for me, to the point that it raises their ire, and in that kind of defensive, well, if it's not good enough for you, the door is right there.
Dax, until you turn on the charm, your preternatural charm, what initially makes you stand out as like you don't belong?
Right. I think it's a combination of like not knowing the customs and strange dress and just that long stare that most people in the town just don't have.
That makes sense, right? Because I imagine these folk being very common folk, farmers mostly, they have immediate, practical, mundane needs, right? They're not like, they don't have dark histories like the two of you. They don't have secrets, right? They're probably too simple for secrets, let's be honest. And so that makes sense. They don't have that 1,000-yard stare. Tell you what else they are. They're jerks. I think you can definitely sense their not wanting you here, right? And a couple of them like will mutter under their breath, like, oh, they ain't got no business here, or they better watch what they do, or we'll run them out of here, right? That kind of thing. And I think at one point, Dax, a young man, 13, 14, 15 years old, something like that, kid, he actually comes up and like just kicks you in the shin. And he gets kind of like all like up in your face, and he's like, sun better not set on you here. What do you do?
So does it cost something to use the myths?
Nope. You just tell me what you do, and then we'll invoke the rules, the mechanics of that point.
Okay. So yeah, I turn on my charm. I don't really know how it works, but it does. And I act as like the father figure, like kid. Put my hand on his shoulder. What is something wrong? Like, Do you need some help? Let's have a conversation about this.
No, it's good. Yeah, I like it. So I think this is a good opportunity to try the dice out. So in Trophy Dark, our die roll is called the risk roll. And this is the way it works. We're going to be real deliberate here. You say what you're trying to do. It sounds like you're just trying to like get this kid to calm down, and probably it will spread to the whole group, right? Everybody will kind of chill out, right? At this point, Brian and I, as players, say what we think could happen if it goes wrong. It's my choice ultimately, but Brian gets to give some input on that. So what could go wrong here, Brian, if this roll goes poorly?
This kid might have a real complex relationship with father figures. Adverse reaction.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's that, and also maybe this kid's dead father left his gun, and the kid's just packing heat, right? And it's just going to be a problem, right? So I'm feeling that. Okay, now we build your die pool. So you get one light die if. Oh, sorry.
Let me just. I'll just grab them from my drawer.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Yeah. Need 2 colors. Okay, so you need 2 colors of dice. You're going to have D6s. You need 1 light die, or you get 1 light die, if you can justify one of your skills being in use here. So basically, if one of your skills applies to what you're doing, then you would get a die for that. And your skills are endurance, meteorology, theft.
Yeah. Do we want to pull the burning wheel astrology skill?
No.
I think that's
meteorology. Is it thrift? Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yes. It's
okay. Endurance, meteorology, thrift, or coordination. I'm not really feeling that, so you may not get a light die for that. But you can possibly get a light die if you accept what's called a devil's bargain from myself or from Brian. A devil's bargain is something that happens no matter what. So whether you succeed or fail, this thing happens in the fiction, and it can be pretty big and wild. We'll make an offer. Brian, if you have an offer, go for it. I'm thinking. I got it. My offer is, no matter what, this kid follows y'all out of town. No matter how it goes down, he's like going to be stuck to you. That's my offer. Let's see if Brian has one.
All right. I was almost going the inverse direction, that this could turn into a scuffle right there on the street, rolling around fisticuffs sort of moment.
I wonder if that qualifies as a devil's bargain, because it kind of implies that that feels like a failure almost, right? Because he's trying to avoid that kind of conflict. But I guess it depends on how it kind of plays out. But in any case, we'll make it work.
I mean,
which do you choose, or if you want either of those?
Well, I think I like both of them, and I don't want 2 dice. But I think, maybe
you can only choose one anyway. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I like the scuffle.
Okay. So you have to kind of physically calm him down in order to make this good.
Yeah.
So you have 1 light die. And now, because you're doing your ritual, which is the white hat, or the becoming myth, which is called the white hat, you are perceived as the good guy despite everything. Because you're invoking that, you also have to add a dark die. So go ahead and roll your 2 dice, your light die and your dark die, and we're looking for the highest result between the 2 of them.
Okay, light 1,
okay.
Dark 6.
Okay. So 6 is a great result. It's a full success, and you have control of the scene. Unfortunately, because it's your dark die, it means your ruin's going up, because 6 is higher than your current ruin. So I'll handle the ruin part as far as what that means, but you have control of the whole scene. So describe how you calm this kid down and indeed get the whole town on your side. Like you're the white hat here. What does this look like?
Yeah, he comes at me, and I have to dodge, and we fall down in the street, like in the mud, and wrestle around, and he's trying to hit me, and I'm just dodging and not throwing any punches. He finally tires himself out, you know and then we have the conversation.
Nice.
And
Let me ask Guillermo, how can you tell that Dax has the town on his side? How can you tell that the energy has changed here?
I feel like they've never seen somebody approach a street brawl with the ethic of nonviolence. That alone is just shocking and different. And so they kind of, how people gather around for a fight. They've gathered around anticipating that, and instead see something that's absolutely unique to them.
Like a real dastardly person would have just shot the kid, right? Yeah. Good. So I think the situation, you've managed to the situation's kind of calmed down, and I think you've actually gotten the attention of the sheriff, both of you. And the sheriff kind of steps outside, or he had nailed the thing up, and then he went inside, and he was kind of watching all this take place from his window. And he comes back out, and he kind of says, and he's a sort of I think he's a big, broad-shouldered, stout guy, kind of haggard, gray hair at the temples, right? And he steps out there and is like, I pegged you two as troublemakers, but I think you both handled yourselves really well out there. That boy, Billy Bradford, ever since his pa died, it's like he's had I don't know, I need a Westernism here. He's got a hornet fluttering around in his gullet or something. And sometimes you got to just give these kids what for. And I think he's like, so are you two interested in tracking down Henry Bentham? This is to Guillermo.
If there's money in it, I'm interested.
It's a considerable bounty. What have you heard about Bentham? And here we actually have this is the sort of the main activity in this ring, is each of you gets to define Bantam a little bit based off what you've heard and what you think you know, right? And so which of you was the veterinarian, or possibly going to be the veterinarian?
The incompetent doctor, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to ask you this. What sort of eyes does Bantam have? Specifically, what desert-dwelling animals' eyes do they resemble? And what's the smallest creature he'd be able to see crawling across the desert on a moonless night and still hit with a bullet like it was nothing? Tell me about Bantam's eyes.
He has the eyes of a goat, that sort of oblong, sideways oval, but they glow with almost a violet rim. And on a moonless night, where I know nobody else could even see what he's targeting, he can take the tail off a scorpion.
Nice. And I haven't forgotten about your condition, Dax. We're going to get to that. But I do want to know from you, Dax, about Bantam. What's the name of Bantam's horse? What physical mark sets it apart from other horses? And what is rumored to be unique about its diet? Take as much time as you need.
Yeah, I think it exclusively eats like insects and stuff, like just bunches and bunches of spiders and all sorts of weird insects, and sort of gains its powers from that. So people say, uh, during the night when he's riding it, there's shadows. Like the horse has 8 legs. Uh, what was the first
What's
question?
the name?
The name. Oh, geez.
Roach. It's Witcher's horse's name.
Oh, just gonna Paul. Yeah. Gravicious.
Oh, nice. Good. Good. Gravicious. I better type that or I'll forget. It eats bugs.
Yep. Like it has to, it can inhale swarms of mosquitoes.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's good. Yeah. Fun. So I think the sheriff invites you into his office, and he's a big man, like I said. His hat is made of um, a beautiful dense fur, and his clothes are without patches or shine from wear. You can even see his horse tied up outside to the post. His horse looks regal, right? He's a haggard man because he's seen a lot. He's got deep lines in his face, but he wears the equivalent of finery, right? Like he's accomplished something in this world, right? And you can't help but think perhaps that this could be you, right? This could be your future. And he'll invite you in, and he doesn't have much to say about Bantam. He's got stories to share, just like you've got stories to share. He doesn't know how he feels about that horse that eats bugs or whatever. He's heard different things. But for the most part, he's like, living or dead don't matter, and the money is good. Even if you cut it into 2 shares, it's a lot of money, way more than you can easily make, outside of robbing a bank. So it's enough to solve most, if not all, of your problems. He says, mind you, the bounty's only for Bantam. His gang, they ain't worth nothing. And he draws you a map of the Southlands up to the mountain range locals call the Horns. At the base of the mountains is the El Dorado pit, an abandoned mining camp. And the surrounding area is riddled with dig sites, any which of which could serve as a sort of bandit hideout. And that's where they're likely to be, Bantam and his gang. It's days away, but it's a direction, and it's a lead, basically, right? And you'll be stopping in a town along the way called Resurrection. And he just gives you the map and says, good luck. And I reckon whatever you were before, you are bounty hunters now. And that concludes Ring 1. We're going to take a 5-minute break, come back, and continue. So you begin Ring 2 just outside of town as you're heading in the direction of the El Dorado pit, according to the map. Now your ruin went up, Dax, and that means you're taking a condition. And this is how it starts. Your condition is called a matter of time. And essentially, 6 buzzards have formed a perfect circle above you, circling in hot updrafts, gliding, waiting for you to fall. They're not always there, but they often are. And so you look up and you see these buzzards circling. How does that make you feel?
I think, I wonder if someone has cursed me. Like, I'm not totally unfamiliar with these type of things. But yeah, it still seems strange,
Yeah, absolutely. And a question for Guillermo. Do you notice the buzzards? Or is it just Dax's imagination?
I like the possibility of that. How about, we'll see how it plays out, but how about this, that I notice him once, and thereafter it starts to just seem like he might be a little frail in the mind.
Yeah, like there were maybe legitimately buzzards there in the beginning, but now they're not really, like maybe the idea of the buzzards. But it's interesting. For our purposes, they are there. What the truth of the matter is, we shall leave vague for now, but good. Now, you're just a little bit outside of town, and off in the distance, a steam-powered train blows vaporous clouds into the air, scattering the golden sunlight. Some questions for you both. Either of you can answer them. Where are the train's occupants going? And what comforts are they bringing with them to their destination? And what delicious delights are passing their lips in the dining car while you chew on a bit of hardtack?
I surmise they are headed to the coast, straight out of this muddy, mucky land we're in. And in the dining car, they are spooning from small silver bowls, bits of sorbet, chilled confection.
Do you have anything to add, Dax?
Yeah, I like it. So yeah, I think it's very, extravagant, like a train with refrigeration,
Oh.
and I think they're literally heading to this town called Hell.
Nice. Like AGL. Good. I like it. At the crossroads outside of town stands a great tree, the tallest thing on the open plain for miles. And the tree's white bark stands in contrast to the charred, jagged patterns left by lightning strikes and tongues of fire. And from a low branch, a woman's body dangles, a rope around her neck. I think seeing this provokes what's called a ruin roll. So we're going to try out the ruin roll. You will each both roll a dark die. And if you roll higher than your current ruin, then your ruin goes up.
I've got
Okay,
a
so
1.
I'm at nice. I'm at 4 now, right?
You are at 4 now. Yep.
Okay. Okay, I got 3.
Okay, so you're good. Guillermo, let me ask you, first of all, how do you feel? But more importantly, perhaps, why was she hung out here instead of in town?
Just a point of clarification. You're asking me to just choose and narrate any direction? Okay. Let's say you know, she had been warned and warned that her life was in danger, but didn't hustle fast enough to get herself to safety before someone came for her. I don't know who yet.
Hmm. So then this was an extrajudicial thing? Like she wasn't hung because she committed some crime, or?
Well, we want a Weird West story, right? So what if the reason she was warned to leave town was that she was or had a sort of a supernatural capability with oil, that she could manipulate it beneath the ground, drive it where she wanted it to, and somebody was aware of that and was coming to try and either force her to work for them or steal that power from her.
Nice. Dax, your 6 buzzards all land in the tree branches, very conspicuously landing in the tree branches. And it sounds like they're just making the low cawing noises that is typical of their species, but perhaps it even sounds like whispering, and perhaps even whispering to this woman hanging from the tree, and perhaps even she is whispering back. But it could also just be your imagination. But I'm curious, what do you do?
Well, I'll look at Guillermo, try to figure out, like, does he see the buzzards on the branches, or are the branches just moving in the wind?
Guillermo, do you see the buzzards?
Not even taking a notice of anything up in the trees. I'm oblivious if they're there at all.
All right, then I'll try to listen to these whispers.
Indeed. And I think you have to get a little closer. Do you get closer?
Yeah, I can't stop myself.
Nice. And as you get closer, the whispering has to do something with why you're running away, why you're trying to start over, why you're trying to find a town where no one knows you. This woman, perhaps the buzzards, they know what you did. And I guess the question is, what did you do?
I think I just hear them like whispering the name Praxis, and I go like white as a sheet, and still, like, how can, how can they know that?
What was the name again? Praxis? Oh, Praxis, good. Thank you. Yeah, and I think that's enough to provoke a ruin roll. So go ahead and roll ruin, or roll a dark die. If you roll higher than 4, it goes up.
Yep, 6.
Okay, so you're going up 1. And I think that means our buzzards are going to get a little bit more persistent in whatever they're doing. Yeah. We're going to talk about what the increase means in a minute. But for now, how do you react when you hear that? When you hear possibly her, possibly them, but the name Praxis being whispered?
Yeah, I think it's just this. Like I've gathered that the Guillermo doesn't see them; he doesn't hear them. So it's just this rush of adrenaline, and yeah, I think I'll go closer and like look at this woman hanging from the tree. It's like, well, should I cut her down? Is this would that end these whispers?
Guillermo, what are you doing in the meantime?
Yeah, I was similarly feeling we should probably cut her down and at least sort of lay the body on the ground.
Guillermo, I think you start to smell something that you remember from your time as an apothecarist, some kind of chemical or herbal smell, and it's coming from her mouth. What is it? Or what does it smell like?
Let's go with it smells like bitumen, which is, for those who don't know, a wax that's kind of a mix of tar and beeswax used in printmaking. It's what you coat a plate with before you etch it. So
what kind of smell is that? Like a acrid smell or a?
It's part pleasant beeswax and part gasoline.
Oh, okay.
Kind of,
I like the smell of gasoline, so
a mild smell of kerosene, sort of.
Good. How interesting. Do you cut her down? I'll let you cut her down.
Yeah. Are we on horseback, mules?
Horseback.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like I'll ride up and try and release the body across my lap so we can ease it to the ground.
You do. And you smell that bitumen odor coming out of her mouth. And you start to even see like a little trickle of black coming from the corner of her mouth, like just kind of dribbling down. What do you do?
Well, I never thought I'd actually encounter the legendary Nellie. They said she was a snake oil salesperson, and nobody really knew quite the truth of what she was capable of with actually distributing oil. And to find that she's internally infused with it is part explanation and part horror. I don't understand.
Is that how you perceive it? Like it's in her body?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That she. The rumors were that she was manipulating oil to bring it to or take it from others, and yet she may have been doing it by somehow using her body as a storage container. Remember, I'm a guy who can. I'm a guy who can weep Gila monster blood.
I know, absolutely. No, I love it. And I think as you're coming to this conclusion, this realization, her eyes pop open, and they are perfectly glossy, shiny, jet black, just completely black. And as you make contact with her eyes, as you look at them, what do they communicate to you right now?
That this bounty hunting, if it's going to pay off well, I'm going to have to do it solo.
How interesting. Make a ruin roll, please.
2, so still beneath my current ruin.
Good. And this makes sense, right? Because you have seen your own eyes leak blood red tears, right? Or bloody tears. So you you understand that there are unexplainable things in the world, right? So it's not totally shocking that she would have this oil dribbling from her mouth. So for the both of you, what do you do with the body?
Would we even have a shovel? Does that make any sense?
Sure.
Let's scratch out a shallow grave below the tree here and tuck her into it.
Yeah. All right. Is this? Yeah. What's the ground like? Is it?
I think right now it is fairly soft. I mean, there have been rains, so it's a little muddy. The town is a little muddy, right? You haven't gone far from the town, so.
Mhm.
So digging a shallow grave shouldn't be any issue at all. Do you observe any kind of rites over the body, Dax?
I think Dax. I'm gonna make a roll, and if it's 1 or 2, then
Okay.
Dax knows some pagan rites.
Oh, okay, nice, good. I like it. Go for it.
That's 1.
Okay, good. Good. Let's see it. What do you do?
Yeah. So Dax will. He notices this oil, and he'll use it and draw like the intricate, some intricate symbology, and then, as we lay her in the grave, and then we'll go and get some stones and put those in maybe like the pattern of a Kabbalah or something.
Nice, good. I like it.
Can I interject a thing here?
Please do, yeah.
So I not recognizing quite what the unholy marks are that Dax is up to here. Will, as he's got his back turned, grabbing some rocks, kind of dip my finger into her lips to pull out some of that oil and just do a straight cross across her forehead.
This feels risky to me. Like, I know that, there's no like immediate danger, but I feel like laying this witch into a shallow grave and performing some pagan rite over her body is bound to provoke something. And so I would like a risk roll from you again, Dax. What are you hoping to accomplish by doing this, Dax?
I think I am trying to. I'm attempting to relieve myself of these vultures for a while.
Oh, I see. So this is for you just as much as it is for her. Okay, good. And what could go wrong, Brian?
The vultures could descend on this corpse. Just almost a swarm, which I know is not normal vulture behavior to swarm while Dax is trying to perform this rite. Imagine him getting so clustered and encroached upon by them trying to kind of reach around and reach under and snip off little gobbets of flesh while he's trying to perform a rite.
I think what could go wrong is the rite actually animates her in some way, and you might have to deal with this hateful oil witch for the rest of the session.
So this is why I took the white hat.
Indeed, yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at the dice. So you get 1 light die if you can justify a useful skill. So let's take a look at your skills. What do you think? You could probably make a case for meteorology if you work in some weather stuff or something.
Yeah, would that include like astrology and whatnot?
I think so. Like just like the weather patterns, star patterns, they get all kind of as one practice, especially during this time period, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm using that like, oh, it's this time of year. There are these constellations in the sky. This is the proper thing to do.
Can I ask, Guillermo, it sounds like you don't approve of this rite, which is why you tried to do sort of like a little bit of protection of the cross there. Like, are you not
Yeah,
into this?
I barely know this guy, and my parents raised me fairly well. My grandmother probably did a better job even, and she wouldn't put up with any of this kind of crazy esoteric mark making.
Yeah, I think this will qualify as a reduction roll. I think I'll give you a reduction roll after this as well, since you're already at 5 ruin Dax. But let's finish the risk roll though. So you've got 1 light die for the meteorology. I like that. And Devil's Bargains. I think Devil's Bargain, no matter what, it turns out one of the buzzards is her or was her familiar. Do we all know what a familiar is? Like a
Yeah.
magical pet animal.
And like it's leading the other ones or something.
I don't know. The offer is no matter what, one of the buzzards was her familiar.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take it.
Well, let's see if Brian has an offer.
Tell me if this
Okay.
is overboard here, but what if there is sort of some just residue of oil on his fingers that he just can't ever quite get rid of, which might down the road lead to a slippery grip on, I don't know, a pistol.
I kind of like that too. Well, you have two options there, so your choice.
Well, I'm trying to get rid of the vultures, so I think I'll go for the oily hands.
Okay, sounds good. So you got 2 light dice, and then if you want, you can add a dark die if you're willing to risk your mind or body. You can also add the dark die after you roll the light dice. So if you don't like the result, you can add it and do it again.
And I'm just rolling for the highest here?
We'll look for the highest result. Yep.
Okay, then yeah, I'll roll these 2 light die then. Okay, 4 and 2.
Okay, so a 4 means that you succeed, but there's some kind of complication. I'm going to make the complication. I'm going to basically kind of like blend a couple of things that I was thinking, which is she comes back, but through a buzzard. So that's the complication. Now your character doesn't know that yet, but we know as players. Now you have the option, if you want to avoid that, you can add a dark die and you roll all 3 again, and then see if you get a better result. You need a 6 to get a full out success.
What's the is there a risk in doing that?
Yeah, if the dark die rolls higher than your current ruin, your character's dead. So or your character's gone. So it's a risk. It's a big risk. Until you get a chance to do the reduction roll, it's a risk. So
Well, so I'd have to roll a 6. I'd have to roll a 6 for that to happen, though, right?
You'd have to roll 6 on the dark die for that to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll roll again.
Okay. Big risk. Big risk.
Okay. Dark is 5.
Okay.
And when the lights was 6.
Okay, nice. So you get a full success. You don't have to worry about the witch. But go ahead and just describe. Go ahead and finish this up. And importantly, I'm going to give you a reduction roll. How are you feeling better about your situation as you do this?
Yeah, well, I think this is kind of like I feel like it's my duty to do these things. Like, I'm kind of guilty that I'm just drifting between towns and using my supernatural charisma to beguile people and make my way. So yeah, I think this is sort of a relief that I get to, do the last rites that I was taught, even though it's not a great situation.
Nice. Good. Go ahead and roll a dark die, and if you roll under 5, you get to lower your ruin.
Okay, a 4.
Okay, you're good to go there, so you can lower that one. And we'll continue on here. That lightning-struck tree that she was hanging from was an omen. And as with many omens, it was only obvious in hindsight. You eventually are riding along an arroyo that forms a natural road through the valley into a series of high-walled, narrow gulches where the horses are forced to be single file, like it's very narrow. And overhead, in the narrow stretch of sky visible between the gulch's peaks, thunderheads are rolling in and covering the sun, and it gets colder. And eventually the storm hits, and the steep walls to the left and right start to stream with sheets of water as rain is blowing sideways, and the gulch's floor becomes a river, dangerously strong. And so, question, whose horse between the two of you loses its footing and spills its rider before being lost to the river? Your choice. Whoever wants to be in danger here.
I can be in danger.
Yeah.
It'll also feel a little more harmful in that I supposedly have skill in animal handling. So to lose my own animal is a bit more dramatic.
Yeah. So here's what's going on. The horse gets swept away. You are being swept away, and I'm going to give you a chance, Guillermo, to save yourself first, and then if you can't, I'm going to get Dax involved possibly. But how do you save yourself, Guillermo? What do you do here?
It might be time for a little lead touch.
Nice.
I will essentially, with the sleeve of my shirt, try and catch it up against the wall of the canyon and just put a bullet right through my own sleeve and pin me to the wall of the canyon.
Nice, good. It's such a strange sight, and I kind of love it. Risk roll. Obviously, it's pretty obvious what you're trying to do. Mike, what do you think could go wrong if this goes poorly? What could happen here?
I think maybe, you attach yourself to the wall, but you're still saddled into your stirrups or whatever, and the horse is still attached to you. Yeah.
See, the horse. So the horse doesn't go anywhere. Good. And I think I like that a lot. And I think actually it could be a situation where like there's a risk of you being injured, right? Like because the horse is thrashing around, right? Maybe even like kicks you and caves in your skull, right? That feels like it could be on the table. In any case, let's take a look at your dice. Do you have a skill that's appropriate here? Animal handling sounds like just straight away.
Yeah, that makes sense. Animal handling.
Since we've talked about the horse being there, at least possibly. Yeah. Devil's bargains. I think no matter what, the horse gets injured, and if you want to continue having a horse, you're going to have to tend to it.
Okay.
If Mike has a different offer, that's fine.
Yeah, that's as good as I've got. So
if you want that, Brian, you get that second light die.
All right, so I've got a light die for the skill.
Yep.
I've got a dark die for the
ritual.
Myth.
Yeah. Or becoming myth.
And
if you want that second light die, you have to let the horse get injured, basically.
Yeah. And remind me, devil's bargains occur no matter what.
No matter what.
All right. Is there even any hope of saving my horse? I thought at the beginning that my horse was just.
Well, so the way we've kind of backtracked on that a little bit and said that you were still attached to the saddle, so maybe just the horse and you were getting swept away, right?
Okay, got it. All right. Yeah, let's go for it. We'll take the devil's bargain and see what happens.
Looking for the high.
All right, a 6 on a light, and then a 1 on a light, and a 1 on a dark.
Nice. That's the best result. Go ahead and describe how you save yourself and your horse, even though your horse gets hurt.
All right. Well, let's tweak this a little bit. Let's say that I use this lead touch to I fire a bullet through the reins, pinning the reins to the wall, which then gives the horse a degree of stability so that it doesn't get washed away completely, but it gets, washed and tumbled underneath the kind of raging river. And of course, rocks are coming downstream and, battering the horse here and there. I'm mainly holding onto its neck, waiting for the water to slow.
And how to get injured again?
Rocks tumbling down the water while its bridle is pinned to or the reins rather, are pinned to the wall.
Good. And I think otherwise, the two of you are able to kind of get to shelter, or at least stay in one spot long enough for the rush of water to pass after the storm passes, and everything's fine. I'm curious though, how do you tend to your horse? What does that look like?
There's a lot of regret and some mildly red tears, kind of weeping and sniveling a bit. There are, in some towns, rumors that I'm a crybaby. And I'm apologizing to this poor horse that my reaction was not the right choice in the moment. I probably should have turned the other direction and ridden downstream to see if there was a way to swim with the current rather than try to pin the poor animal to a given location. So a fair amount of regret.
Take a ruin roll.
2 again.
You're ace of ruin rolls. They're being very nice to you. It's all right. The bad stuff's coming. I need just like a minute to check the incursion, so I'm going to pause the recording. So you continue on, and it's getting to be pretty late in the day at this point. Sun is setting. It's not quite dusk, but it's really, really close to being dusk. And you are nearly at the small town of Resurrection. And just outside, on the outskirts of Resurrection, there's a cemetery along the road. And you can see a young grave digger pulling bodies out of a cart and putting them into coffins that are waiting at the bottoms of these newly dug graves. Dax, what do you do?
Yeah, I think I'll just go and ask, like, why are there so many people being buried here?
It's a bunch of people. It's like a cart full of people. This young man he's a funny looking guy. He's all legs and arms, like very gangly, very tall, just thin as a pencil, except for his gut, which is pronounced and round. The rest of him is just like twig, right? And he says, these are Bantam's boys. Got nearly every one of them.
Yeah, well, I'll ask him, well, what about the man himself?
Well, the man himself and a couple of his lieutenants, they managed to get away. But we did what for on most of them, and lost our sheriff in the process. Rest his soul. And he kind of points at the body of the sheriff right there with the body of the criminals. But, he's like, I take it the two of you are raring to take down Bantam and get that bounty. Not sure why else you'd be coming through Resurrection, especially this time of day.
It's like, well, looks like you guys did right, but are y'all planning to hunt? Or
well, we're going to have to make some adjustments to civic life now that our sheriff is no longer here. People in town are naturally feeling a little sensitive and delicate about the situation. No, I think that's going to be for better men to do. Maybe you two men. Maybe you could give me a hand with these bodies. I'd be happy to pay you if you help me get them in the ground.
well, look at Guillermo and like, do we have the time? Or is this gonna let Bantam escape?
It seems more like Bantam's nearby. Was this shootout this morning, or?
Yeah.
So, Bantam is nearby. I wouldn't mind a change of horse, though. And that mine's got a hell of a limp.
He's like, name's Belly, by the way.
Belly. Belly, you got a stable in town where I can get a new horse?
I reckon we can fix you up with a new horse. I reckon we can fix you up with a lot of things. Resurrection is a town on the move.
All right. Well, we best be on the move too then. We got to get a hold of Bantam before he gets too much farther away.
So you don't want to help me with these bodies? Oh, shucks. Goes. He opens up his coat to reveal the sheriff's badge that he presumably just took off the sheriff. And he says, what if I said it's your civic duty to help me put these bodies in the ground? A civic duty that I order with my newfound authority.
I think it's time for me to get a little weepy.
I don't think I need that. I like it in the fiction. I don't think I need a roll. Just describe what you do.
All right. I'm going to fix eyes with him, let my lower lip quiver a little bit, and then, very slowly tears of blood start rolling down my cheeks. And, with a dramatic kind of sniff, I'll go, just smear blood all across my cheek and say, I just can't. I can't help you right now. We got to go.
And he just stands there, jaw slack, and lets you be on your way. And as you walk into the town of Resurrection, that concludes Ring 2. And
do I need a ruin roll for using the Gila Monster's gift?
No, I left it just in the fiction as you. I didn't need rolls from it. Let's just take a 2-minute break, quick bio break, come back. So some questions for Guillermo. First question. Maybe it's just lingering smell from the day's activities, but maybe it's something different. But you have started to smell grave stench coming off Dax. How does he also look like he's dying?
Oh. You know, as we're riding along, every now and then out of the corner of my eye, it seems more like there's a skeleton riding that horse than a living man.
Good.
Once in a while, he blinks, and his eyes, when they open, they're sockets rather than eyeballs, and then he blinks again, and the eyes return.
Good. As you're entering resurrection, and indeed as you're going past the gravedigger Belly's bodies, you'll notice one of the bodies in the cart, Guillermo. A man who's wearing a hat festooned with crow feathers. And indeed, this fellow's name is Crowfeather. He's a former member of Bantam's gang. But also, you know him. And the way you know him has something to do with your past as a disgraced apothecarist. I want to know about why you're a disgraced apothecarist and what Crowfeather had to do with it. You can think about it for a minute, and I can continue if you need the time.
No, I just don't like to talk about this. It was Crowfeather's younger brother. I attempted a transfusion. He'd been shot and hurt and lost a lot of blood, and I'd read about it. It seemed doable. I had the tubing. I went ahead and attempted it, and he died on the table, and Crowfeather never forgave me.
Did the body start to leak black bile from its mouth, kind of like the witch?
Ooh. Let's go with red.
Take a ruin roll, please.
Sure. 4, which is higher than my current ruin.
Indeed. We get to give you a condition, finally.
Right.
Good. I think you are taking the condition law went walking. And what that means is at some point, as you are making your way through the town of Resurrection, as you're walking through, you discover a lawman's badge pinned inside your clothing. You don't remember where it came from. Did you wander away from a town that trusted you to save it? You vaguely remember putting it on, but all the other details are lost.
Sounds good.
How does it make you feel? Or what do you think of that?
As a former doctor, a concern for my aphasia, but also as a human, more concerned that I seem to have failed at every profession I've tried. And I'm not sure if this ranching is going to work out either as my horse limps along underneath me.
So, Sheriff Belly will come up behind you as you're making your way down the streets, the central thoroughfare of Resurrection, and he'll say, "Now, fellas, I feel a little, well, let's just say I feel a little slighted that you didn't want to help me with this grave task." Do you see what I did there? But I'm not going to hold it against you. Now, you said you needed a stable, and I can show you to one. And in fact, I bet I can even get you a stall to sleep in for the night, nice comfy bed of hay, and then you can just have your pick of the horses, to ride out the next day.
Have my pick of the horses.
Well,
is this your stable, Sheriff Belly?
No, but those horses are all recently unattached by a quite significant number of dishonorable men and women who are currently, half of them anyway, inside those shallow graves just outside of town.
I'm going to just take a moment. I want to look real closely at Sheriff Belly's eyes. Are they goat eyes or are they more normal human eyes?
They are normal eyes. A good question, but they are normal eyes. He says, get you all situated, and then the night is young. Go enjoy resurrection. We've got a fantastic brothel, Queen Jenny's. We've got saloons. Or you could just walk around and enjoy the night air. Whatever takes you. And if you just get bored and want to go bury some bodies, you can do that too.
My friend here has some vultures that can take care of those for you if you don't mind waiting a day or two.
So do the two of you, so Dax, are you cool with just going to sleep in the stable, or?
I think Dax would like to see if these horses actually exist.
Indeed. I should also mention that, I didn't mention it earlier, but once you've done the reduction roll like you've already done, you can keep doing it to try to keep lowering your ruin, as long as you're willing to keep sabotaging Guillermo. Or at least acting against Guillermo's desires and interests. So just one thing to point out. Not that that's necessarily relevant right now, but it just occurred to me. Yeah, there are horses, actually. Yeah, there are some horses. And they are... Do you both go check out the horses, or right now? Are you saving that for...
I'm sorry, I missed a word there. You said they are...
Oh, I didn't say anything. Are you both going to check out the horses now, or are you going to just come back to that later? I want to kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I would certainly like to confirm that Belly is not completely insane. And then if the horses are real, I wouldn't mind going, well, we're in town, but going somewhere in town to find out if Belly is, the maniac that I think he is.
So Belly takes you to the stable, and he says, now the horses are right down there at the end. There's 3 of them. The other ones didn't. Well, they didn't make it. Now, I'm not burying horses. Let it be known. But the 3 that survived are down there at the end. But I have to warn you, they are... I would classify them as very peculiar animals.
Peculiar in what sort of fashion?
I think you just better go take a look. I got to go back and keep the peace now. And he moseys off.
Let's go look at these 3 peculiar animals.
Yeah.
So, there are indeed 3 horses, 3 stalls. In the first stall, you just see a pair of eyes glowing like embers, red and hot in the darkness. In the second stall, you hear a sort of strange grunting, like a coming from the darkness. And in the third stall, that horse is whispering to you. And he's whispering a tale, something that Dax did. You can hear it, Guillermo. Dax, tell us more about Praxis. What's going on with that? This horse is telling tales on you.
Yeah, I think Praxis is the name. It's the name of a person, but also like a sort of a political movement, like a Enlightenment thing, So the leader named it after himself or themselves. I don't know. And I came to this town and like totally disrupted this, you know, and people ended up getting hurt. And I left, and somehow no one has chased after me, but I still, I'm still dealing with what I did.
Well, I mean, I want to get specific here. What specific thing did you do that maybe gives Guillermo pause?
I think maybe I like sabotaged one of the speeches. Like there was a speech going on and I sabotaged something, and maybe a tower fell on somebody, and it wasn't supposed to fall on anybody, but it did.
Some people died.
Yeah.
So Dax, you're one of those instigators, one of those rabble rousers that I've heard of.
Yep.
And you are so dastardly at this that animals call you out on it.
This animal did. I would like for you both to roll ruin just for the general appearance of these animals. Please.
It's a 1 again.
All right, so it's just rolling into the current one.
Just a single dark die, yeah.
Oh, that's 6.
You're going up. You are going up. Back up to 5. Let's talk about, see if your conditions get worse. Oh, good. I think as you are sitting here considering these, you can't see any of the horses except for the one's glowing red eyes. There's the one with the glowing red eyes and snorting like kind of hot breath. There's the second one that is just like rasping like it's dying or something. And then there's the third one that's just whispering in the darkness. And from that second one, Dax, a buzzard flies out of the stall, viscera dripping from its beak, and it just latches onto you like a face hugger and tears off your ear, just bites your ear clean off. And there's blood spraying everywhere. And the buzzard turns to look at you, Guillermo, and it's just like chewing the ear flesh and swallowing it down while it makes very direct eye contact. Roll ruin, Guillermo.
4. Ties my current ruin.
Does not go up. Nope. But what do you do, Guillermo, when you see this buzzard attack
I am
Dax?
Grabbing it by the neck with both hands and just wringing it and trying to dump his ear back out on the ground.
Nice, good. I like a risk roll here. Is the goal here to get him to spit up the ear? Is that the idea?
Well, yes, and also to kill the bizarre supernatural buzzard that just flew out of a horse stall.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it's coming from next.
Right, yeah, that's fair. So, okay. Mike, any ideas for what could go wrong, Mike? Maybe.
I think you could start seeing the rest of the buzzards, like they're also attached to you.
I like that. I would say that perhaps I think if
Well,
you fail, I
that
think. I'm sorry.
that might be more of a bargain.
It could be a devil's bargain too. Yeah, you can save it for that if you want. I would say for a failure, what goes wrong here, possibly, is you're not choking out a buzzard at all. You're choking out a person, maybe someone close to you, maybe not, but that's what's actually going on. And that person did bite off Dax's ear still. Let's take a look at your skills. See if you're getting a light die for skills here. Animal handling?
Animal handling and
brawling.
So it's just the perfect combination of my skills.
I kind of like it. Yeah, it's good. Okay, devil's bargains. So do you want to restate yours, Mike?
Yeah, I think the bargain is that you become attuned to the I don't know what's a group of vultures. A group of crows is a murder, but I don't know when.
I don't know what a group of buzzards is. A funeral of buzzards. I don't know. That's what we'll say. I like it though. I think the buzzards become like this sort of overarching menace for the both of you. I think that's pretty good. My offer would be. My offer, I think, is maybe a variation of my fail condition, which is no matter what, you have to reveal some dark violence that you did to Dax. That way you've both revealed some dark violence to each other. Well, the horse revealed Dax's, but but no matter what, you will have to, there will be some kind of dark revelation. So you got two choices there, Brian, whichever you want.
All right. I like
or neither. You can just take one down.
Let's take one. I like this idea of the buzzards becoming my own burden as well. That a mutual fear of what might be imaginary vultures becomes real to us. By the way, I love collective nouns, and so I just quickly looked up what a group of vultures is. You've got four choices, Mike. A committee, which might play back to your political past. A venue, a volt, or a kettle. The kettle is specifically when they are feeding on a carcass.
Nice. Are those buzzards too, or just vultures?
Those are just vultures.
Look up buzzards. I'm curious if there's a difference.
It's a wake of buzzards.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty close to what I said when I said a funeral.
Yeah, and then there's they're a kettle when they're circling, which is interesting because that's the inverse of the vulture.
Oh, interesting. I like a wake of vultures, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, let's go for it.
It's very appropriate.
All right. I'll take a devil's bargain that I may be pursued by Dax's wake of vultures.
Indeed. We got two. You got two light dice. Go for it.
All right. 5 and a 4.
The complication here, you will succeed, but the complication is going to be, I think the complication is going to be that this is perhaps a very disturbing thing for you to do. Something about this just shakes you. And I think that maybe you call it a night early. If you don't want to call it a night early, you can grab a dark die and roll all 3 again.
Yeah, let's see this. That the throttling of this buzzard reminds me of what I really did to Crowfeather's brother. That, while I've told the story many a time that it was a blood transfusion went wrong, the truth is that I strangled him. That I had a kind of at the time a moral code that felt that bandits were not the sort of people that I felt society needed, and I took the time of his injury and my medical care for him to instead murder him while he was weak and vulnerable.
How does Dax learn this? Do you just say that? Do you tell that story, or is it something else?
Yeah, let's play to my reputation as a weepy individual here. I will collapse on the ground in the stables with this dead buzzard in my lap and kind of hold up your ear to you, Dax, and say, were I a better physician, I might be able to restore this for you, and yet I every time I do it wrong. More people have died in my care. Crowfeather back there, I knew him because his brother was briefly a patient of mine, and where I could have perhaps healed him, I instead took his life. You might want to distance yourself from me, Dax. I should probably be left alone this evening.
So, just to clarify, was the vulture actually a person?
No, it was just a buzzard. Yeah,
it was just a buzzard. Okay, then, yeah, Dax is rightly horrified, but he's like, we all have our dark past, that we need to atone for. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Indeed. What are these horses? You'll just leave the horses here?
Honestly, I want to know more about the horses, but
yeah,
you can stay in the stable with the horses. I mean,
well, I'll look. I don't know if this is too meta, but I'll look in the trough. What are they eating?
Oh, good. Piles and piles of bugs. You look in there, and it's thick with crawling beetles and roaches and centipedes and all kinds of nasty things. Make a ruin roll, in fact.
Both of us?
One.
No, just Dax, because Dax looked. You're good. What do you do?
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. This is way out of my pay grade. So I'm just gonna back away, and tell Guillermo that I don't know if you want these horses.
Perhaps not. So, how do you spend the rest of the evening then? Dax, I mean, it sounds like Guillermo needs to calm down and cool off a little bit. I'll tell you, you have some options. If you're inclined to seek the warm water and perfume of Queen Jenny's brothel, that's an option. You could go gambling if you prefer the uneasy companionship of gamblers, the liquid comfort of alcohol, and affable patter of a barkeep is available at the saloon. You could just wander about the streets, or find some folks maybe huddled near a fire pit, just swapping tales. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Dax wants to go seek out more information about what's actually going on, whether that's at the saloon or around a campfire.
I think either's a good choice. You got that fire pit or the saloon. I think either would be okay.
Yeah, I think the fire pit sounds interesting. So if I use a myth again, I get a 6, then I'm out, right?
What's your current? Yes, unless you do something right now to get a reduction roll, like if you betray Guillermo in some way.
So I think that's gonna happen.
Yeah. What do you do?
If we take it back a half step, there's a real easy betrayal of, hey, come look at this horse over here.
I mean, I'd like to see what you do. Like after you leave, like what do you do that either subverts the mission or betrays Guillermo in some way.
You still have the other horse with you, right?
Yeah, injured, but
Yeah.
it's
So I think okay, the other horses won't eat it, but I think think, oh, you shouldn't have let this horse get injured, and I'm just incensed, and I just release it into the wild, like get gone.
Nice. Make a reduction roll. So now if you want a horse, you've got to take one of those horses, Guillermo.
exactly. This is perfect.
Right. So the reduction is still 1 die?
Yeah, dark die, you're looking for lower than 5.
Okay. It's a 6.
Nothing happens then. You're just stuck at 5. You can try again later, but you're stuck at 5 for now. So, fire pit. So on your way in, you notice that there are some cowboys parked just outside of town, but close enough that their cooking fire is a beacon of companionship. And they'll clear a space for you as you approach, and they'll kind of ask you, like, what brings you to town, partner?
Well, I heard about this. We heard a story from your sheriff about Bantam.
Sheriff's dead, last I heard.
Well,
Dead in a shootout with Bantam and his men, in fact.
Some stranger up on your hill called Billy burying the body.
They just burst out laughing.
Call himself sheriff.
They burst out laughing. They're like, if Belly is the new sheriff of Resurrection, then I am the king of France. And they're just kind of like, they get a good laugh out of that, right? And then they start to like make fun of his protruding belly, and make all kinds of jokes about, all kinds of jokes about like, I don't know, like just like his he was born that way, he always he looked like the letter B, coming out of the womb, that sort of thing. And they're not taking that seriously at all. But they do say, they're like, I heard it was quite the firefight though. And the sheriff got him a few members of the gang. Bantam got away. Heard you can bring in a good bounty if you can bring them in, dead or alive. But no one can catch Henry Bantam. I mean, come on. He's like a shadow. There's no. He may not even exist.
Well, I mean, at least his gun exists, right? He's shooting y'all. And
then one of the cowboys who hasn't been saying much, who's sitting like kind of on the outside of the circle on a post, he sort of like cocks his hat back and steps into the light of the fire, and he says, no one can take down Henry Bantam because the devil is on his side.
Yeah. What have you heard? What do you mean?
Well, I know that when they rode through here, and the Padre ran out into the streets clutching his rosary, begging everyone to stop the shooting. Well, let's just say that Padre might have had his faith shaken a little bit. And I think here I'd like to pose a question to Guillermo, well, to Brian out of character. Brian out of character, what is said to happen to religious men when they face Bantam. Something that indicates that the devil is on Bantam's side.
A feeling that as their words come out of their mouth, they turn back and are twisted even in their utterance. That almost like the air itself, which guides Bantam's bullets, perverts their words.
Nice. And that cowboy will tell you that, you know. But last I heard, he's headed toward the mine, the El Dorado pit. That's where it can be found. That's almost certainly where they've been making their raiding from, doing their raiding from, their staging ground. Not too far from here.
Yeah, and how big is this pit?
Well, I've seen the camp, and camp has been abandoned for a long time, but it's still capable of hosting quite a number of men. I suspect that's why they set up shop there. The mine itself, well, that's a dark history, friend. Very dark history. Let's just say that those miners tried to go on strike once, and the strike breakers made sure that they, well, let's just say all the other miners in the area learned a lesson that day. It's a cursed place, to be sure.
Yeah, I think with that, Dax is gonna head back. You know, did you say there was a hotel or a saloon?
There's a saloon, yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
I think as you're heading to the saloon. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna go back there and and rest for the night and probably have some
Leave Guillermo in
nightmares.
the hay. That's good. I think as you're heading to the saloon, you see a couple of people who definitely don't look like they belong. One of them, a woman, is wearing a hat ringed with the rattles of rattlesnakes, and the other, he's decked out in like a large buffalo cape and a woven straw hat and basically nothing else. The cloak and the hat, that's kind of it, not even boots. And you see these two unusual characters. They are coming out of the saloon, making their way toward the stable. What do you do?
Okay. Yeah, I'll follow them. Try not to be seen.
I like that as a risk roll. What could go wrong here, Brian?
I'm assuming there's only one stable in town and they're heading to the stable I'm at.
Correct.
The apparently supernatural horses that are in the stables may well be theirs and might be at their beck and call, such that they can do that finger whistle thing and
That's pretty good. I think that maybe they just see you sneaking up on them and they turn around and confront you. I think it could be as simple as that. But in any case, let's take a look at your dice. Do you get I don't know if you're getting a skill dice as you've described it. What do you think?
I think possibly coordination.
Yeah, tell me about that. How do you suppose that might work?
Yeah, I think I'm, trying to prowl around and be stealthy, and so I have to make sure I'm not. It's all like mud, right? So
Yes.
I'm not stepping in any puddles, making squishing noises, and
Got it. Okay, so you're okay. Okay. I'm into that. So you have one light die. Devil's Bargains. Devil's Bargains. I kind of like where Brian's going with that. No matter what, it turns out at least two of these horses belong to these two characters.
yeah,
Oh, I like another
I
deal
like
too. No matter what, no matter what, Sheriff Belly shows up.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'll take that.
Brian, do you have an offer? Well, let's see if Brian has an offer.
I don't think I have anything that improves on this.
Okay, well, you can take either of the ones I've posted or I've posited.
Yeah, I love Belly showing up. That'll be interesting.
Okay, good. I like that too. Awesome. Go ahead and roll. I assume you're going to hold off on the dark dice for now.
Yeah. So just 2 light.
Yeah.
3.
3 is a miss. That's a failure. What's going to happen is Sheriff Belly is going to get himself killed. If you want to avoid Sheriff Belly getting killed, you can grab a dark die and roll again. But if you get a 6 in the dark die, that's it for Dax.
I think I'll do it because Dax just can't take the guilt.
Okay.
All 5s.
Okay. You succeed, but I think basically Sheriff Belly's going to get in trouble. So, in the meantime, I want to cut back over to Guillermo. Guillermo, you see these two characters as they are approaching the stable. You kind of see them out. There's a window, maybe you say, and they're very, very strange-looking characters. The woman looks like she spits fire, and she's got like a bunch of rattlesnakes on her hat. And the man is half naked, just wearing a buffalo pelt and a straw hat. They're both armed, and they are headed your way. What do you do?
Do I have any line of sight to tell that Dax is trailing them, or am I?
No, I don't think you know that yet.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can hide in an abandoned stall and just see what they have to say.
Good. If it comes to that, if they come in there, then I think we'll do the roll then. But just knowing that you're hiding is good enough for now. I'm content with that. I think what's going to happen, this is basically the scene. You both witness it from your different vantage points. But Sheriff Belly interposes himself between these two characters in the stable, opens his coat, flashes his badge. You have a badge too, by the way, Guillermo. Flashes his badge and says, "Now, hold on a minute. We've had a lot of strange characters coming through here today, many of which are presently waiting to meet their maker. And let's just say I can make it worth your while if you'd be willing to come help us bury these bodies." And the woman says, "You mean bury the bodies of my friends?" And then she pulls out a gun, pulls it on Sheriff Belly. I'll give you both a chance to react. You're both are both operating from a position of advantage because they don't know you're there. Maybe we just talk about it first. What do you think? What do you think Dax might do? Like, if anything.
trying to decide if Dax is how cowardly he is.
I think it might count as a reduction roll if you do nothing.
Yeah, I think he is. Like he's, these people are, unknown quantities with seemingly, he knows the supernatural person when he sees
Yeah.
one. So.
Yeah, I think if you do nothing, I think that's a reduction roll because you're kind of fundamentally betraying the cosmos here. Guillermo, what do you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of unknown quantities here. Belly seems like he's half insane. The guy wearing a buffalo robe and a straw hat and nothing else is probably in a similar state
Possibly.
of mental well-being. If I'm picturing this, the rattlesnake, rattle-headed hatted person has her back to me, and
They say that again.
If I'm picturing it right, essentially, the people who have drawn on Sheriff Belly have their backs to me, right?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, if that's interesting, sure. I if depending on what you want to do, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
I think I'm just going to get my gun out and watch. I was debating over the ominous click, but I think it's better to see how this plays out because we don't know whose allegiances are where yet.
And Belly says, "Whoa, no, hold on a minute. I just wanted to." She pulls the trigger and sends his brains flying all over the post, and he slumps down dead. And she says, "Let's get out of here, Amos." And Amos says, "You got it, Snakebite." And they're on their way. And you will recognize the names, Amos and Snakebite. They are members of Bantam's gang. They may well be trying to get back to Bantam. So, and they're coming into the stable. So Guillermo, are you hiding again now? Or now are you hiding?
Yeah. There were 3 horses. I only need 1. So maybe I take the leftovers. Although that might be really.
I want to see if you can hide first.
Okay.
What could go wrong, Mike?
I think the obvious thing is that they want to take all the horses. Yeah, like they'll rope one to another horse because it's their friends or somebody's, but they have a use for it.
I think they see you and they don't want new witnesses, so they blow your brains out. Along with Sheriff, just another body for someone to bury now that Sheriff Belly's dead. So, yeah, take a look at your skills. You getting a light die from skills, Guillermo? I don't think so. Doesn't seem like it to me.
Looks that way. I do have my gun drawn for whatever that's worth. Could I?
Are you
with
are
lead
you hiding?
Can I immobilize 2 people? Can I shoot a bullet into each of their feet and kind of pow?
Sure, like that. Do you want to make that the role instead? Like you're going to do the becoming myth?
Almost. Well. Oh. Sorry, give me a second here.
I'll even go you one better. How about this? So you found a badge in your coat. This indicates that maybe you were a lawman and you've just suppressed that for some reason. But
right.
Maybe the appearance of Amos and Snakebite remind you of what you're really doing or what you need to be doing.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
You're not trying to acquire land to farm and ranch. There's something else going on here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All right. Then instead, it's time to cock the pistol and
I like it. I think it's great.
and say, "You two there, hold on. You're not going anywhere. We need."
Let's talk devil's bargains. Let's try to get you a light die here. I think no matter what. I think no matter what, you exercise extrajudicial justice on them. If Mike has an offer, you could make it.
I think probably Amos has some ability that will be useful to them here.
Oh, that's pretty good. Like he's got some kind of power.
Yeah, maybe it probably doesn't totally negate what you're doing, but it makes it more complicated.
Yeah, it would. I like that a lot too. Okay, well, those are two good. I think those are two pretty good options. What do you think, Brian?
So without that, I have no dice at all, right?
You have a dark die for the ritual or for the becoming myth.
Oh, okay. Let's say that Amos has an undisclosed power that may come to play here.
I like it. I think it's great. Take those two dice.
So one light, one dark.
One light, one dark.
A 4 on the light, a 1 on the dark.
Okay. The complication is going to be that you definitely pin down Snakebite, but Amos's power allows him to escape your thing. If you are your dark die was low, so you can add another dark die and try again if you want to go for a higher number. So then you would roll 2 dark, 1 light.
Just a thing I don't know in game mechanics. Should both dark dice be higher than my ruin? Am I going from 4 to 6 ruin in a single?
No. You can only ever go up once per roll. So.
Okay. Yeah, let's try it. We'll add a second dark die. Throw again, all 3 dice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, it's worse. A 3 and a 1 on the dark, a 2 on the light.
And the dark was high, so you're stuck with that because the dark was high. Yeah, it ain't good. I'll take the fiction. They come in. What do you say to them? Like, first of all, I think we need to talk about like you becoming aware of your past, or like the fact that you have this lawman's badge. Like, what happens there in that moment?
Well, seeing the pseudo sheriff Belly gunned down, reminds me that I've got this lawman's badge for a reason. That somebody entrusted it to me, and while my memories are fuzzy, I've not done right thus far. And here's a chance for me to try and amend my past errors by at least apprehending two of the members of Bantam's gang, and then hopefully that leads to some leverage in apprehending him for the bounty or finding where he is so we can bring him in.
You pull out your gun. Snakebite is fast as hell. She's so fast. She whips her gun out and she just like shoots it out of your hand. And then Amos transforms into a buffalo, charges towards you, gores the shit out of you, and tosses you against the back of the stable. They get their horses and leave. Amos, of course, is not in buffalo form on the horse. They get their horses and they leave. And Dax, Guillermo's bleeding out in the stall on the hay. What do you do?
Yeah, so I think I'd like to roll that reduction roll.
Oh, please do. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are entitled to that.
5 on a 5?
No. You're stuck on 5.
Okay. I'll still I'd like to intercede before
Before Guillermo dies.
before he gets gored.
Oh, okay. I'm into that. What we can retcon a little bit. I think I might pick it up at the moment right before the buffalo gores him. If that's okay.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm thinking I'll use my first out of the holster.
Oh, nice, good
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a big risk. It's a big risk.
Yeah. I'll jump and make it over there and slam Guillermo out of the way of this buffalo.
Oh, nice, good. All right, so you are becoming myth. Let's take a look at your dice. Well, first of all, what could go wrong, Brian?
It could be that the two of us get run down by this buffalo.
Could be. Could well be. I like that. I don't know if I can do any better than that. But I think that basically, if this goes poorly, especially if you hit your ruin, this just might be the end of the road, and Bantam gets away. So let's see how it goes. Well, let's talk about dice. So, are you getting a light die here, Dax? Endurance, maybe.
I think coordination.
Coordination. Yeah.
I don't know about endurance because this is more like
a fast action.
It's a sprint type of thing. So.
Yeah. I'm into coordination. What about Devil's Bargains? Well, I think Devil's Bargains is. The Devil's Bargain is one of them gets away no matter what and warns Bantam about the two of you. That's my offer.
Think of anything more narratively interesting?
So that's the offer on the table. Do you want that?
Yeah, I'll take it.
So you're up to 2 light dice, and of course you have to do the dark die.
All right. Yep, that's a 6 on the dark.
Okay. Very good. Very good. You will save Guillermo. Please give me that scene. What does it look like?
Yeah, I think it's the, sort of the standard saving scene. Like I, sneak up behind all these people extremely quickly, and I think maybe I like jump on the buffalo, right? And as the buffalo's running towards Guillermo, I like get on and kick to derail it, but then I lose my balance and get impaled.
Nice. Grim, but good. And so we have some decisions to make at the table here. I think the 2 characters, they leave, they run away, they get out of there. Snakebite and Amos. I think you'll be able to keep Dax alive long enough, Guillermo, to get through Ring 4, but I think you're going to be doing Ring 5 on your own, Dax, or Guillermo. So I think that's the way this looks. If we're content with that, then that's what we'll do. Otherwise, we could just go straight to epilogues and say that this is the end of the story, and we can kind of see in epilogue what happens to Guillermo and Dax in the end. Y'all's choice.
How do you feel, Dax?
I'm fine, playing out in a mortal injury, I guess, and then
And then being dead
seeing
by
what
the end of ring
happens.
4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and seeing what happens in ring 5. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, then. Why don't we take we'll say that this is the end of ring 3 then. Why don't we take a break and we'll start ring 4? Take like sig 5.
I do.
So I think the only reason I'm letting Dax live for another ring is because, Guillermo, you do have a medicine skill because of your background. If not for that, I think that would be the end of the road for Dax. So maybe give me a montage of how you save his life long enough. An infection will probably take him eventually, but how do you save him right now?
So I'm going to be grabbing, burlap sacks and anything off the stables that seems like it might make a halfway decent bandage here, straps of bridle leather. And I say, Dax, damn it. I'm an incompetent doctor. I'm going to make a half-assed rancher, and I'm not even a decent lawman. You saw right there. I couldn't even shoot them when their back was to me. And you're going to die in a town named Resurrection? No. Start wrapping him up.
Well, I think, Dax looks at you. It's like, well, I thought we had better chances you patching me up than you trying to patch yourself up.
I have to admit that I'm basically guilt tripping the person who saved me here. So I'm making myself into a villain, if that's.
I like it. I think it's good. And then I think, so we kind of fast forward to the next day, and I think we just have that classic scene, that classic Western scene of two people on a horse, one of them grievously injured, right? And so you're both on not one of the hell horses. You're on whatever horse Dax was on. But in any case, we kind of just see you. You've been riding most of the. You're kind of riding out. It's going to take you at least the whole day before you can get to the El Dorado pit. And there's a dark rider. A dark rider has been keeping pace with you off in the distance, sometimes off to the right, other times off to the left. The rider always disappears behind something when you attempt to visually track them. But when you forget about them, they sort of reappear again in your peripheral vision. Guillermo, what do you do as you become aware of this dark rider who's kind of tracking you, clearly following you?
I said, Dax, I know you're feeling poorly here, but
also the buzzards have been circling. The buzzards are always keeping pace.
we've had our differences, but where I doubted your stories about seeing these buzzards circling, will you do me a favor and confirm if there's a dark rider over there that's been trailing us for a while, please?
There is indeed, Dax.
Yeah. What? Do I see anything interesting when I look over there?
You are not able to focus on him. Every time you try to focus on the rider, just you, Dax, it might be different for Guillermo, but Dax, whenever you try to focus on the rider, you just hear a voice in your head that says, "I'm sorry, you're lost, and you're no use to me."
All right. Then, yeah, Dax looks back at Guillermo and kind of half out of it and mumbles, yeah, there's someone over there.
If you want to try to focus on the Dark Rider, Guillermo, it's a ruin roll. per the rules of the incursion, it's a ruin roll to try to focus on seeing him.
In the sense that I might gain knowledge by focusing, or
If you
a
just
loss
want
of eyesight?
to, if you just want to see who it is, and gains, just otherwise it's just a blurry, always half obscured person on a dark horse wearing a dark
I
hat.
got a feeling I know who it is in one way or another.
Well, this will confirm it almost certainly.
What the heck? Let's do it. I'll try and focus on it. And can I say that I have a degree of a long arm, maybe just a carbine rather than an actual, decent long range rifle, something that's kind of mediocre, so I can take a pot shot if I don't like the looks of this person?
Yeah, of course, sure.
All right, I will take a look at them. I'll iron down the sights.
Make a ruin roll.
All right, single die, yeah.
Yep, single die.
2.
Your ruin does not go up. You are able to get a good glimpse at him. He is wearing a black hat and a black duster on a black horse, snorting fire from his nostrils. And the rider's eyes glow red. And he's very far away, hundreds of yards away, but you're able to still see him. And more importantly, you're able to hear him perfectly, as if he was standing right next to you. And he says, I can offer you things. I can offer you power. And the price isn't high at all. I'm certain you can afford it.
I'm going to have a moment of moral fortitude here.
I'm going to, can I stop you for just 1 second? I got to do something with my air conditioning now.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Continue, sorry.
I'm going to have a brief moment of moral fortitude here and essentially, flash my badge and, kind of give a, nah, not interested bargain right now.
I fear the laws of man will not save you. Perhaps you will reconsider at a later time. And then he just, in a blur, disappears.
I'm going to shout futilely into the wilderness. I don't need the laws of man, I have the laws of God.
Indeed. Good. It's fairly late at night when you reach the camp. You see Snakebite and Amos. They are there. I think you're both at a position where you're maybe like hiding in the scrub and looking down on them, right? And they're at this camp. It's clearly an abandoned mining camp because there's all kinds of tools and other things laying around. There are buzzards all over the place. They are just like piled thick in the trees. And there's a smell, a sort of slow, stinking smoke is just sort of hovering, lingering in the air. And you can see blackened bodies devoured first by fire and then by the desert. And at this point, the character with the highest ruin or who is most in tune with the worlds beyond. In both cases, I think it's you, Dax. You get to answer some questions for me. The miners used to dream here in the tents that are now torn and burned. They used to dream here, and they used to work below. And when they stopped and demanded more for their labor, strangers came in the night with kerosene and matches. Who gave the order to torch this camp? And that person who gave the order, what did they dream of deep in slumber as the miners burned alive in their beds?
Yeah, I think it's probably like Bantam's brother. Maybe they like have some sort of ownership in the mine. Let's call them Vincent, and yeah, let's say their dreams were completely like innocent, like they didn't have any problems. It was sunshine and roses. Yeah,
Nice.
because that's the type of person they are.
That's really good.
Indeed, indeed. And to whom did the miners cry out as they were met with stout clubs in the dark, wielded by masked men blocking the only way out? So there were some who weren't burned alive, some who were trying to get out of the mine, and these masked men, these assailants. Who did the miners cry out to save them? What power, perhaps dark power or spirit? And I don't need a name necessarily, just general description will do.
Yeah, I think he needed some sort of like mother figure, probably religious, but obscure. Like this is an old deity that is not well known anymore. It's only the few people who know it are probably in this mine.
I like that. That's pretty good. Like a sort of a deity of the deep earth, say, something like that. Like a literal mother earth, a mother of the earth. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. Who actually, which spirit heard their cries? Was it her or was it someone else, someone more nefarious?
I think it makes sense that Bantam intercepted, or whatever is inhabiting Bantam, or the source, intercepted these these pleas.
Good. And are you aware that even now the miners are watching this scene? They're watching Snakebite and Amos. Can you sense them?
Oh, they're spirits, or
Sure.
I don't think so.
Can I interject here for a second?
Please do.
I feel like you have 1 foot in the spirit world already.
That was the idea. That was the reason why.
That's true.
No.
I think I would see them if they were around, right?
They are.
Okay.
The question is, they are angry. They are going to take their revenge on Amos and Snakebite. And the question is, do you let them? Do you tell Guillermo what's about to happen, or do you let this act of vengeance take place?
Well, it's not for me to stop. I mean, I'll
It's proxy vengeance from you, right?
yeah, I'll put my hand on Guillermo and like, stay down, look over there. Yeah.
Do you try to keep Guillermo's eyes away from what's about to happen?
No.
No. Okay, so you're okay.
I'm
You're okay with
pointing.
Guillermo seeing it.
I'm pointing at you.
Oh,
You
you're
can
pointing it out. Good.
You can choose to look away if you so wish.
A
Choose
pickaxe.
to look away. That's awesome.
A pickaxe flies out of the tree cover and buries itself in Amos's skull, and he collapses. You hear you hear the crunch of his skull, and he just collapses dead instantly. And then, streaking out of the darkness, is a figure wreathed in flame, cackling wildly, and it's as fast as lightning. It just streaks out and scoops up Snakebite, and you just hear her screaming as it like tears into the darkness. And a dark figure in overalls lurches out of the dark behind you. His face blackened, raw and cracked. His eyes are liquid pools of gold that run down his face like tears. That's a theme here. His mouth open in a soundless cry. Guillermo, what do you do?
This being is right behind us, right?
Right behind you.
I feel like I'm gonna grab Dax and sort of shoulder him behind me, point my gun at this critter, and say, apparently we're both prone to strong emotional responses, and I'm going to let flow my own bloody tears again and try and quell this being into quietude.
Yes, it's almost like a sympathetic kind of thing here, right? Yeah, I like that. What could go wrong, Mike?
I think this being could perceive some sort of, like, it could be offended by this action, or just
perceives it as guilt, right?
Yeah.
I think he perceives it as you confessing your guilt and buries a pickaxe in your skull. Light dice. I don't think you're getting one for skills, but devil's bargains are on the table. I think my devil's bargain is no matter what, you're not going to get a tender goodbye scene with Dax. I think Dax might be a casualty of this moment. That's my offer. If my cousin offer, go for it.
I don't like it because I have such a great idea for a tender goodbye scene.
Mike, better make a better offer then, or you're just rolling a dark die.
I think maybe the spirit or whatever wants something for trade.
That's pretty good.
If you can, yeah.
I can handle it from there, but I like just the idea, the general idea of it wants something for trade.
Yeah, and I can see a remorselessly horrible trade.
But Dax would be fine.
Maybe. All right. Can I take Mike's offer of the something in trade as my devil's bargain?
By all means, you have one light die and one dark die for the becoming myth.
All right. I knew that at one point my dice rolls would run out. A 2 on the dark and a 1 on the light.
Ugh. Oh, the dark's highest, so you can't do anything about it. Well, make your attempt at least. What does that look like?
Oh, I'm trying to win sympathy with this being, with my mutually pungent tears. I'm trying to interpose myself between Dax to sort of shield him because he's certainly more injured than I am, and pleading for forgiveness. A lot of wrong has been done here. Let's not perpetuate that wrong. Let's not take it further. Let's look to something a little higher.
It lets out a terrible, baleful cry. No words, just a horrible sound echoing, rising up from the bowels of hell. Gold, hot molten gold sputtering from his mouth. He buries the pickaxe in your skull. Dax leaving you to die of your infection, and it stumbles off into the darkness. But Dax, you hear a voice coming from the mine. And that voice says, "If you can make it here, make it to my place in the darkness. I will ensure that you do not die in vain. People will remember your name." What do you do, Dax?
So I see Guillermo pass. Like,
Guillermo's stone cold dead.
jeez.
What betrayed him was the dark die because it was higher, but still a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Picturing a triple trickle of blood, the bloody tears, but also just a giant pour running down the center of my forehead.
Wow. All right. Well, I'll say a prayer and then start like struggling and limping. Actually, do we still have the horse?
Horse is still there. You probably parked it, a little ways
Yeah.
away so you could spy on the
Then
camp.
I'll ride the horse, like halfway falling off down into the pit, where the voice came from.
Indeed. And I think that's where we'll end. We'll see you going down into the pit, slumped over your horse. We'll have an epilogue. Think about the future, either your character or how your character's remembered. Just some little capstone to the story here, some little coda. Only implicate your own character, don't implicate the other character in your epilogue. But take a minute as long as you need, and when you're ready, whoever wants to go first, please do.
A known story ended back in the town of Resurrection. That there was a witness, someone peering into that stables, who knew Sheriff Belly and knew that Guillermo was the kind of person that could change the world, could transform a situation by sobbing uncontrollable bloody tears in a kind of a weeping wounds sort of theological story that gets passed on generations after. This kind of person who weeps from their eyes rather than from other injuries.
You become like a legend, like La Llorona or something like that, like a very like a mythical figure, a legendary figure.
El Llorona, if you will, instead of La Llorona.
Good, good. I like it. Mike, are you ready for Daxes?
Yeah, I think it's just a debate that doesn't end. Like, everyone, feels compelled to love the legend of Dax, but at the same time, they know, like all these instances of Dax doing horrible things, you know, uh, but nobody can seem to like actually come down on one side.
Because of your deal with the devil, I wonder if you are forever remembered in a collection of Time Life books, a collection of leather-bound Time Life books. That would be amazing. My parents had those books. They were great. Good. Well, that's Trophy Dark, Devil Aim for me. We can take a quick minute to debrief. I like to do a debrief technique called stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, bits of gameplay, bits of narration, just moments in the story, whatever. Wishes are things that you wished you had done in the story, or maybe you would have liked to have seen, or if you play this again, how you might do it differently. So I'll start with stars. I like the whole thing. The story was wonderful. Like I loved it. Like it was so evocative and cool and mysterious, and it had a lot of like high points for me. I thought the witch in the tree was great because we sort of naturally arrived at that outcome based off how you answered the questions. I liked the repeated theme of tears. That was fun. That came up in several different ways. And I liked these sort of like, in the beginning, your characters they barely knew each other, but they sort of bonded as it went on. And it's just a sort of a tragic thing that they bonded like in the middle of this circumstance that portends their death and possibly the destruction of their soul. But, it is what it is. As far as wishes go, I would have loved for you all to make it to Ring 5 and encounter Bantam, because Bantam's in the mine, and he's in the mine, and like the devil is there with him, and basically it's called Devil Aim for me because the devil like takes his hand and aims his gun at you, right? So it's an unerring shot. It's a cool moment. You almost got there. It's a really fast ring. It'll probably only takes like 5 minutes, but I like how it ended. But it would have been cool. But nevertheless, I thought it was still a cool ending. Those are my stars and wishes. If either of you have any stars or wishes, you can go for it.
No, that was great. I was very immersed, which I can only think of a few other systems which have done that for me. I wish I rolled better.
Those reduction rolls, you lost like what, 3 of them? I think.
I think 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah,
I just couldn't get it.
The devil roll for me would have been good, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any stars or wishes, Brian?
Yeah, in terms of game design, the switching of rituals to this idea of becoming myth and legend is smoking hot.
It's really good. Yeah, it's so appropriate for the
storytelling.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's right. Go ahead.
Is the player like having the players introduce narrative things? Is that a trophy thing, or is that unique to?
That's a trophy thing. Yeah. Everything about this is trophy. The only difference is Michael, who's the author of the game or of this incursion, he changed the idea of rituals to these becoming myth. So they're not like spells; they're just like notoriety and powers. In regular trophy, they're like there are rituals that your character has to actually do, but the game is otherwise identical. The experience is the same, just the trappings are different. So.
Another thing that stuck out for me was the three mysterious horses in the stables. My brain is just running 1,000 directions with what.
That's not in the incursion. I made that up. So that's all me.
All right, nicely done. I want to know what's in that middle stable. I kind of was just at a certain point hoping I could walk in there and just saddle that thing and go, whatever it was.
I imagined that the horse was being eaten alive by the buzzards.
Oh.
Yeah. That's what I imagined.
A giant warthog or something. What else? One other moment that I had in my head, we didn't have the chance to make it transpire. I was hoping to have a final sort of heart-wrenching moment of trying to futilely bandage up Dax, where I'm just out of fabric and I'm using my socks because that's the cleanest, best fabric I have, and then wrapping a sweaty saddle blanket around his gut and, tying it off with some saddle leather and, kind of hitting him on the back, being like, all right, we can make it, let's go. And then he doesn't.
Yeah, that was, I enjoyed the whole, there was a tragic quality to this story, which I thought was really great, because it almost felt like the two of you were getting something resembling like a redemption for your characters, and then it just went south really hard, so any wishes or anything else, or was that your wish, like hoping to see
that was basically my wish, that I had this mental moment that would have been fun, and then maybe a pickaxe sinks into my skull, but it played out differently.
All right, yeah. Well, it was great fun. I'm going to stop the recording. For anybody watching, we hope you enjoyed this, and post any questions you have in the comments.